Yo, what is up guys? Boy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hope you guys are doing well. So following Canelo Alvarez's 11th round knockout win over Sergey Kovalev, I've noticed a lot of people on social media question the legitimacy of this fight, basically saying that it was fixed and that Sergey Kovalev essentially took a dive. And yeah, essentially I just wanted to, share my 2 cents on the fight and why it transpired the way it did. I think one thing we can all agree, if you're not like a hardcore Canelo fanboy, I think we can all agree that Sergey Kovalev didn't look like Sergey Kovalev in this particular fight. In this fight, Sergey Kovalev was extremely passive, he was very negative, he wasn't sitting down on any of his punches, he wasn't throwing with power or mean intention. Historically, Kovalev is a heavy-handed boxer-puncher. I know the last couple of fights under Buddy McGirt, he has deviated a little from that style. In the Elidia Alvarez rematch and Anthony Yard, Kovalev wasn't loading up with as many power shots, but he was still loading up here and there. He was still throwing shots with authority in most rounds in those fights. But in this fight, he hardly threw with authority at all. It was a very lackluster performance from Sergey Kovalev, and it's as bad as I've ever seen him. He looked worse in this fight than he did in the Andre Ward rematch, and even against Elidia Alvarez in the first fight. I felt he looked that bad. He looked really bad. So I can see why people are casting aspersions in regards to Kovalev taking a dive. I can, because that wasn't the Kovalev we are used to seeing, and you'd be a fool to suggest it was. Am I to believe that Canelo Alvarez made him look that bad just because of his skill set and his ability? I don't think he did. I really don't. I don't think Sergey Kovalev took a dive in this fight. I certainly believe he sold his soul though, and I'll tell you what I mean. I really believe the rehydration clause in this fight played a big part. And I think Kovalev going into this fight knew that. He had a short camp, he had to adhere to the rehydration clause, and he was flat. He was really flat, and I think he knew that coming into this fight. This essentially was a cash out for Sergey Kovalev. In my opinion, I think he just cashed out because he's got a big court case up and coming, and he's coming towards the end of his career. It was a massive payday, so he had to take it. I think Kovalev cashed out, and I really believe the rehydration clause played a big factor, and I'll tell you for why. Just a couple of things I observed. On the ring walk, Sergey Kovalev looked very dry, not really sweating, didn't really look like he'd done much of a warm-up. He looked very dry, and it took him 3 or 4 rounds to really work up a sweat in this fight. That goes to show to me anyway that Sergey Kovalev was drained. That showed me that the rehydration clauses didn't give Kovalev a chance to rehydrate. That's why they're called rehydration clauses. He looked dry, he looked flat, and he looked devoid of energy, to be honest with you. And, the reason why Kovalev wasn't loading up, the reason why he wasn't forcing the issue, I think Kovalev knew he didn't have much in the tank, so he had to conserve his energy. That's why he was so passive. That's why he wasn't loading up on shots. And if you noticed, Kovalev had a good round 8 and round 9, I want to say. He actually opened up a bit more in round 8 and round 9. And I think in round 9 he actually caught Canelo and kind of buzzed him. He at least backed him up with a right hand, and Kovalev didn't really follow up on that. And again, I think that was because the energy just wasn't there. I think Kovalev, he threw his dice in rounds 8 and round 9. He didn't cause sufficient damage on Canelo, and after that Canelo took over. He rebounded in round 10. He regained control of the fight, and in round 10, I felt Kovalev looked spent, to be honest with you. Kovalev wasn't keeping his shape, he wasn't keeping his balance, his punch output went down, and, for me, round 10 just signalled Kovalev had nothing left, and round 11, that was even more apparent. Kovalev again couldn't hold his shape. He was kind of falling about, poor balance, and he got knocked out. He got knocked out because he was drained. He had nothing left. That's why he got stopped. Because before that point, up until like round 9, Kovalev was taking Canelo's power quite easily, to be honest with you. But, round 11, Kovalev had nothing left. There was nothing in the gas tank. He was completely spent. That's why he got knocked out, You're obviously more likely to get knocked out when your stamina has been depleted. And I think Kovalev's stamina in this fight was actually compromised by the rehydration clause. I do. I mean, we've got to say, we all have to agree, Sergey Kovalev did not look like Sergey Kovalev in this fight. So I can see why people are saying it's a dive. I don't agree. I personally believe the rehydration clause played a massive part in this fight. And, I felt that as soon as I saw Kovalev walk to the ring, I was actually really concerned with how dry he looked. And, yeah, like I said, for me that is down to the rehydration clause imposed by Team Canelo. I know some people are going to say, well, you're just making excuses for Kovalev. You picked Kovalev to win. He lost. Now you're making excuses. Well, listen, man. When you watch a fight, when you make a post-fight, or when you talk about the fight after the fact, you have to talk about factors that can contribute to why the fight played out like it did. And if you're telling me the rehydration clause had no effect on this fight whatsoever, you're an idiot. If that was the case, why ask for one in the first place, right? Why ask for one if it had no effect? Of course it had an effect. The question was, going into this fight, how much of an effect would it have? And watching the fight, I felt the effect was quite drastic. And that's just my opinion. Canelo won the fight. Fair play to him. He's now a 4-weight world champion. I'm not taking that away from him, but, we have to be honest about the situation. We have to say and be transparent that, yes, there was a rehydration clause imposed, and, Kovalev looked the worst we've ever seen him, But it is what it is. Share your thoughts below. I'm intrigued to hear your opinions. Drop a comment. Tell me how you feel about the Kovalev-Canelo fight. Was it a fix? Was it just because of a rehydration clause? Or was Canelo just too good? Did Canelo neutralise Kovalev? And any of the other factors just didn't play a part? Share your thoughts below. I'm intrigued to hear your viewpoints. Peace.